Hello, and welcome to the Chronofront Hub. Today, we're going to step back in time and explore what it was really like to be a regular citizen in the Roman Empire. In this video, we'll take a look at daily life, work, social life, entertainment, festivals, and even how people navigated safety and hierarchy in the bustling city streets. You'll get a sense of the smells, the sounds, and the energy that filled Rome every single day. But before we dive in, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It's a simple and wonderful way to support the channel, and it really means a lot to me. Also, I'm always curious where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it right now? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Now, settle in, leave all the modern world behind, and imagine waking up in Rome for a single day hearing the clatter of carts on the cobblestone streets, smelling fresh bread from the bakeries, and stepping into a city that never truly sleeps. Living in Rome was an experience of constant motion. The city was crowded, noisy, and sometimes overwhelming, but it was also full of energy and opportunity. Narrow streets and alleys wound through blocks of buildings that were often stacked high, where families of all sizes shared cramped living spaces. Life was intimate and public at the same time. You could hear your neighbors' conversations, smell their cooking, and witness both joys and disputes right outside your door. Every day began with the sounds of commerce. Vendors shouting their wares, merchants haggling over prices, children playing in the streets with whatever they could find, and the constant rhythm of carts rolling over uneven stones. Pickpockets and thieves were part of the city's reality, and even the wealthier citizens had to be cautious. Safety was never guaranteed, and vigilance became second nature. You learned to read the streets. A hurried glance, a sudden movement, a distracted hand, all could signal opportunity or danger. Despite the risks, there was a strong sense of community. Neighbors watched over each other, shared news, and helped in times of need. Public spaces like the Forum, bathhouses, and temples were central to social life, places where work, politics, gossip, and celebration intertwined. Even the simple act of buying bread or fetching water could become an event, a small chance to connect with the rhythms of the city. Every citizen, whether laborer, merchant, or artisan, had a role in the pulse of Rome. The city demanded work and alertness from sunrise to sunset, but it also offered moments of respite and enjoyment. A festival in the Forum, a laugh with friends, a bit of entertainment from a street performer, or a small feast during special occasions. Life in Rome was a constant balance between survival and participation, between observing the chaos and finding a place within it. The city was both a challenge and a home, relentless but vibrant, dangerous yet full of stories waiting to unfold in every corner. When the labor of the morning began to wane, Romans found ways to escape the grind of daily life, even if only briefly. Leisure, though simpler than what we might expect today, was an essential part of the city's rhythm. Citizens of all ages engaged in activities that brought joy, competition, and connection. In the streets and courtyards, one could hear the laughter of children playing games like harpastum, a rough-and-tumble ball game that demanded speed, strategy, and a lot of energy. Some played simple races or tossed stones into targets, inventing games with whatever objects they could find, from walnuts to scraps of cloth. For adults, particularly men, physical exercise and sport were both a hobby and a way to maintain strength. Some trained in rudimentary forms of wrestling or fencing with wooden swords, often in small public spaces or the open squares of the Forum. Boxing and wrestling matches were held, drawing local crowds who cheered and exchanged bets. Athletics was highly valued. Even ordinary citizens sometimes aspired to match the skill of gladiators, if only for personal pride or the amusement of their neighbors. Music and performance were another outlet. Street performers and musicians wandered through the city, playing flutes, lyres, or simple percussion instruments. Citizens might gather to listen, clap along, or join in if they had even a rudimentary skill. Singing, dancing, and storytelling were integral to communal life, especially during festivals or temple ceremonies, offering entertainment that brought together young and old alike. Literacy and reading, though less common among the lower classes, provided intellectual leisure. Those who could read might spend a quiet afternoon with a scroll, absorbing poetry, philosophy, or tales of historical heroes. Public readings were also popular, bringing literature and drama to a wider audience who could not afford private scrolls. Plays and performances in small theaters offered stories that ranged from comic relief to moral lessons, all performed amidst the chatter of excited spectators. Even meals and drink carried an element of leisure. Small gatherings over simple wine and bread allowed neighbors to talk, exchange news, or play dice games. Festivals, of course, elevated ordinary social life to a spectacle. Parades, feasts, music, dancing, and competitions transformed the city into a stage for celebration, where everyone could briefly step out of routine obligations. Gardening, tending small household plants, or keeping pigeons and other birds were hobbies for those with even modest means. These small acts of cultivation offered a sense of control and pride amidst a city that was otherwise crowded, noisy, and unpredictable. Observing the world around them, Romans found simple, practical ways to entertain themselves. A clever card game, a friendly debate, or a shared story, all woven into the daily rhythm of life. In essence, leisure in Rome was about connection, skill, and small pleasures. Whether it was a game in the street, a musical performance, a sporting contest, or a festival feast, citizens carved out moments to relax, compete, and enjoy one another's company. Even amidst crowded alleys and bustling markets, life found room for play, expression, and the human need for diversion from toil. Even amidst the harsh realities of work, the crowded streets, and the occasional danger from theft or accidents, Romans found ways to create moments of joy. Simple pleasures like tasting a sweet fig, cheering for a skilled athlete, enjoying the warmth of wine with friends, or participating in a festival provided a counterbalance to the relentless rhythm of daily life. The city was alive, chaotic, and sometimes harsh, but it was also full of opportunities to connect, to play, and to take pride in both small victories and shared experiences. In the end, being a citizen in the Roman Empire meant navigating a world of constant motion and occasional risk. Yet it also offered the chance to live fully, to work, to celebrate, to play, and to be part of a vibrant community that pulsed with life, laughter, and human ingenuity. Life might have been hard, but it was never dull. Every street, market, bathhouse, or arena held the potential for discovery, entertainment, and a fleeting sense of joy amidst the daily struggle. Beyond the bustling streets of Rome, the countryside stretched across the empire, dotted with farms, vineyards, and small villages. Life in these rural areas was shaped by the rhythm of the seasons and the relentless demands of agriculture. A typical day began before dawn, with laborers heading out to fields of wheat, barley, and olives. The air was crisp in the early morning, carrying the earthy smell of tilled soil and the faint fragrance of blooming herbs. Unlike the city, the countryside offered space and quiet, but that tranquility came with its own hardships. Farming was backbreaking work. Plowing, sowing, harvesting, and tending to livestock consumed nearly every hour of daylight. Tools were simple, often made of wood and iron, and machinery was limited. Families relied on careful planning and cooperation to ensure enough food was produced for survival and trade. The yield of the land determined income, status, and sometimes even safety, as poor harvests could bring hardship or hunger. Work was not just physical. It was strategic, requiring attention to weather patterns, soil fertility, and crop rotation. Social hierarchy in the countryside was subtle but palpable. Landowners had influence over small villages, and controlled access to resources. Tenant farmers or laborers might work the same fields for generations, with their social standing tied closely to the land they cultivated. Wealthier villagers could afford better tools, larger homes, or small luxuries like wine and cheese, while the majority lived simply, with the satisfaction of labor and connection to their community forming the backbone of social life. Security was never guaranteed, even in isolated areas. Bandits could target poorly guarded farms, and disputes over land or water could escalate quickly. Money or crops did not automatically ensure protection, so vigilance and community cooperation were essential. Neighbors often banded together to watch over each other's property or to help during harvests, reinforcing bonds that were both practical and social. A small village might seem peaceful, but beneath that calm lay constant awareness of risk. Despite the hardships, life in the countryside offered its own forms of leisure and ritual. Festivals tied to the agricultural calendar marked planting, harvest, and religious observances. Music, dancing, and shared meals provided respite from labor. Even simple games, storytelling by the fireside, or competitions in archery or wrestling for younger villagers gave structure and entertainment to daily life. The connection to nature also allowed Romans to take pride in the fruits of their labor. Fresh bread, olive oil, cheese, and wine produced on their own land carried a satisfaction that the city could rarely provide. Trade and interaction with nearby towns added variety. Villagers would sometimes visit markets to sell surplus crops or purchase tools, spices, or fabric. These trips were social events as much as practical necessities, offering chances to see the wider world beyond the village, hear news, and negotiate deals. Through this, even rural citizens maintained a sense of connection to the empire at large, bridging the gap between city and countryside. Ultimately, life in the Roman countryside was a balance of toil and reward, risk and security, work and community. Every day was dictated by the sun and seasons, but within that rhythm were moments of human connection, accomplishment, and small pleasures. The land demanded strength, skill, and vigilance, yet it also offered a sense of rootedness and tangible results from one's labor, a different kind of fulfillment than the bustling chaos of Rome's streets, but just as vital to understanding the experience of a regular citizen in the Roman Empire. Life in the Roman Empire was not just about survival or labor. It was also shaped by family, education, and social roles. Families were the cornerstone of Roman society, often living together in multi-generational households. Respect for elders, obedience to parents, and adherence to social customs governed daily interactions. Children were expected to learn their place in society early on, observing the routines of their elders, and gradually taking on responsibilities in both domestic and economic life. Education varied widely depending on wealth and status. Wealthier families could afford tutors, often Greek, to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, and rhetoric. These skills were essential for participating in public life, managing estates, or engaging in business. For the majority of citizens, however, education was practical rather than academic. Children learned by doing, helping in the fields, assisting in shops, or observing skilled artisans. Knowledge was often passed orally, from parent to child, neighbor to neighbor. Even simple literacy was a valuable tool, enabling citizens to read contracts, lists, or messages. Family life extended beyond education into daily routines, obligations, and relationships. Meals were communal, conversations and stories passed down through generations, and labor shared according to ability and age. Respect, hierarchy, and reciprocity defined interactions. While the paterfamilias, the male head of household, held legal authority, women played crucial roles in managing households, raising children, and even overseeing small businesses or farms. Women's influence was often subtle but essential, shaping family decisions and maintaining social cohesion. Romance and marriage reflected both social expectations and personal choices. Marriages were often arranged, with alliances strengthening family ties, securing property, or enhancing social standing. Love and attraction, while sometimes secondary to practical considerations, still existed in letters, poetry, and small acts of courtship. Women managed domestic life, guided children's early education, and occasionally engaged in trade or craft work, while men provided income, protection, and representation in civic matters. Despite legal inequalities, social influence and respect could be earned through skill, intelligence, and leadership within the household and community. Social interactions between men and women extended into public life as well. Markets, baths, festivals, and religious ceremonies offered spaces where people observed, conversed, and formed bonds. Friendships and alliances were built across genders, and moments of shared leisure, a festival game, a public performance, or even a shared cup of wine reinforced community connections. Gender roles were well defined, but flexible enough to allow for personal influence, clever negotiation, and participation in both economic and social spheres. In essence, education and family life created the framework within which ordinary Romans navigated the world. Learning practical skills, respecting social hierarchies, understanding gender expectations, and participating in family and community networks allowed citizens to survive and thrive. Even amidst the demands of work, labor, and societal rules, Romans found ways to nurture children, sustain households, and build connections that made life in the empire rich, structured, and meaningful. While Rome thrived with commerce, festivals, and daily life, it was far from a completely safe city. Streets could be dangerous, especially after dusk. Narrow alleys and poorly lit areas provided opportunities for pickpockets and thieves, and even well-off citizens needed to remain vigilant. The urban landscape demanded awareness. A momentary distraction could result in stolen coins, lost goods, or a minor scuffle. Guards and watchmen existed, but their presence was uneven, and most ordinary Romans relied on community vigilance and caution to protect themselves. Despite these dangers, Romans still ventured out at night. Festivals and religious celebrations often extended into the evening, with music, dancing, and public feasts spilling into the streets. Taverns and inns offered spaces for relaxation, conversation, and socializing. Patrons could enjoy simple meals, cheap wine, or games of dice while exchanging news and gossip. These venues were hubs of urban life, where strangers and neighbors mingled alike, but they also required careful attention. Disputes could escalate quickly, and the unwary could find themselves cheated or robbed. The concept of law and order existed, but enforcement was inconsistent. Theft, assault, and property disputes were common, and punishments ranged from fines to public humiliation or corporal penalties, depending on the severity and the social status of those involved. Even citizens with money or influence were not immune to crime, and the social hierarchy could sometimes dictate the outcome of justice. Vigilance, cleverness, and connections were often as important as law itself. Yet the city also offered moments of excitement and entertainment at night. Street performers, musicians, and acrobats attracted crowds, while public squares hosted dancing, storytelling, and occasional competitions. Festivals were particularly vibrant, illuminating the city with torches, music, and colorful decorations. Even in areas where danger lurked, the human desire for connection, amusement, and celebration created spaces where citizens could laugh, cheer, and temporarily forget the hardships of daily life. In quieter neighborhoods, citizens still found ways to socialize safely. Small courtyards, private gardens, and communal spaces allowed for conversation, games, or shared meals. Children played quietly while adults traded news or discussed local affairs. Wine, bread, and small snacks accompanied these gatherings, making ordinary evenings a mix of caution and enjoyment. In essence, life in Rome was a balance of risk and reward. Citizens navigated a world full of hazards, from petty crime to larger disputes, but they also participated in the vibrant social and cultural life of the city. The streets, inns, squares, and bathhouses were simultaneously arenas of potential danger and hubs of connection, entertainment, and communal life. Surviving and thriving required awareness, prudence, and adaptability. Yet despite the risks, the city pulsed with energy, opportunity, and the pleasures of shared human experience. Life in the Roman Empire was inseparable from work, trade, and the flow of money. Whether in the crowded streets of the city or the open fields of the countryside, economic activity dictated daily routines and influenced social standing. Markets were the lifeblood of urban life, vibrant arenas where goods, services, and information circulated constantly. Vendors sold everything from fresh bread, fish, and vegetables to pottery, cloth, and tools, while artisans displayed their craftsmanship for discerning customers. Every transaction, no matter how small, carried significance, coins changed hands, negotiations unfolded, and reputation could make the difference between success and struggle. In the countryside, economic life was tied closely to the land. Farmers, tenant laborers, and smallholders worked tirelessly to produce crops, olives, grapes, and livestock. The yield of each season determined not only food security, but also social status. Surplus produce could be traded or sold in nearby towns, connecting rural communities to the broader economic network of the empire. Even simple goods like pottery or tools were traded locally, ensuring that villagers were part of the same intricate web of commerce as city dwellers. Work was relentless and often exhausting. The day began at dawn and ended with the fading light, whether in fields, workshops, or markets. Urban laborers carried heavy loads, baked bread, repaired roofs, or assisted in shops, while rural workers plowed, harvested, and tended animals. Skill and efficiency were rewarded, while mistakes could mean lost income or food shortages. Yet amid the toil, there were moments of ingenuity and social interaction. Merchants shared stories, farmers exchanged tips, and artisans taught apprentices the subtle tricks of their trade. Social status, wealth, and connections also played a crucial role in economic life. A small shop might serve as a hub of information and social networking, while a larger estate could wield influence over villages or districts. Even modest income required careful management. Coins were precious, and miscalculations could have long-term consequences. At the same time, cleverness, negotiation, and reputation could turn ordinary citizens into respected figures in their communities. Trade and economic activity were also closely tied to entertainment and social life. Festivals, religious events, and games created demand for food, wine, decorations, and small luxury goods, connecting the worlds of labor and leisure. Citizens could see their work reflected in these shared experiences. The bread they baked, the tools they crafted, or the produce they harvested became part of the celebrations and communal joy that punctuated life in the empire. Ultimately, economic life in Rome was a delicate balance of labor, opportunity, and social interaction. The streets, markets, and fields were arenas where survival, prosperity, and reputation intertwined. Every coin, every deal, every harvest carried weight, but it also carried the potential for connection, ingenuity, and the satisfaction of contributing to a society that was vast, complex, and endlessly dynamic. Living in the Roman Empire meant participating in this intricate web of work, trade, and community. A rhythm as demanding as it was rewarding, as challenging as it was vital to everyday life. The first day of a gladiator festival was a spectacle unlike anything most citizens experienced in their daily lives. From early morning, the streets surrounding the arena began to hum with anticipation. Vendors set up stands, selling bread, figs, olives, and small jugs of cheap wine to eager festival-goers. The smell of roasting meat and spiced delicacies drifted through the air, mingling with the dust of the crowded roads and the faint scent of sweat from athletes preparing nearby. As the arena gates opened, citizens poured in, finding seats according to social status. Wealthier patrons in the higher tiers, ordinary citizens filling the lower sections, and children craning their necks for a better view. The crowd's energy was palpable, a mix of excitement, curiosity, and competitive spirit. Merchants called out their wares, gamblers whispered bets on which fighter would survive, and performers entertained with juggling, music, or acrobatic stunts before the main events began. The first fights were often the preliminary matches. Young or less experienced gladiators displayed their skill with wooden swords or lighter weapons, providing both practice and entertainment. Each clash drew cheers, groans, and the occasional gasp as fighters demonstrated courage, agility, and clever tactics. Observers learned quickly to read the subtle moves and signals. A feint, a dodge, a carefully timed strike could turn the tide. Even ordinary citizens, watching from the stands, were swept into the drama, discussing strategy, cheering heroes, and analyzing mistakes as if they themselves were part of the arena. Interspersed between fights, festival rituals and ceremonies took place. Trumpets blared, officials paraded in ceremonial dress, and prayers or offerings to the gods were performed. These moments reminded the crowd that the games were not just entertainment, but a sacred, socially significant event. Citizens mingled, shared food, and marveled at the spectacle, enjoying the rare opportunity to step outside their normal routines. By midday, the arena was alive with noise, color, and movement. Trainers worked with gladiators, adjusting armor or coaching fighters on technique. Vendors moved through the stands, selling refreshments and snacks, while spectators shouted, laughed, and jeered, swept up in the communal thrill. Even ordinary objects, a spilled wine jug, a tossed fig, or a dropped coin, could become small stories in the larger tapestry of the festival. As the sun began to dip, the pace of the matches slowed slightly, but the energy remained high. Each fight told a story of skill, courage, and survival, blending entertainment with a lesson about life, risk, and human ingenuity. By the end of the first day, citizens left the arena buzzing with conversation, recounting moments of heroism, clever maneuvers, and the sheer spectacle of the games, already anticipating the next day's contests. A gladiator's day began before sunrise, long before the city stirred. Waking in the barracks, the smell of damp stone and straw filled the small quarters. Fighters stretched and prepared, their bodies already sore from yesterday's training. Trainers barked instructions, and younger gladiators watched the seasoned veterans with cautious respect. Meals were simple, fuel for the grueling hours ahead. After breakfast of coarse bread, porridge, and a few dried figs, gladiators donned training gear. Wooden swords and practice shields were the first tools, testing strength, reflexes, and stamina. Every movement was scrutinized. One misstep could be costly. Trainers enforced strict routines, and fighters pushed their limits, sweat dripping as muscles burned under the relentless regimen. Midday brought a brief reprieve. Gladiators rested, patched minor injuries, and shared quiet meals. Trust was fragile among competitors. Conversations were cautious, focusing on strategies or recounting past mistakes. Some reflected silently, conserving energy and mentally preparing for afternoon drills, knowing that discipline and focus were the difference between life and death in the arena. Afternoon training often included simulated combat. Fighters sparred with various weapons, anticipating strikes and exploiting openings. Trainers staged mock ambushes, forcing quick thinking and improvisation. The clanging of wooden swords echoed across the grounds, mingling with shouted commands. Every action mattered. Speed, timing, and precision could make or break a gladiator's chance of survival. Evening drills prepared gladiators for the real arena. Armor was polished, shields repaired, and weapons inspected. Some practiced alone, perfecting form. Others rehearsed with partners, testing coordination and reflexes. Exhaustion set in, yet each movement was purposeful. Fighters knew that even minor errors in tomorrow's combat could be fatal, so focus and repetition dominated the closing hours of training. Night brought rare quiet. Gladiators returned to their quarters, consuming a simple meal of grains, beans, and dried fruit. Some whispered strategies or discussed the day's events, while others sat in silence, reflecting on personal fears and hopes. Sleep was essential, but often light, interrupted by memories of past fights or anxiety for the next day. Rest, however, was the only tool that could keep them alive. Being a gladiator trainer, or ludus magistri, meant waking before sunrise to oversee the entire day. From the barracks to the training grounds, the trainer organized schedules, meals, and drills. Every fighter's movements were scrutinized, ensuring proper form and stamina. Discipline was strict, yet respect had to be earned, balancing fear with authority. The trainer directed sparring sessions, adjusted techniques, and simulated combat scenarios. He had to anticipate mistakes and correct them immediately, knowing that even a small error could prove fatal in the arena. Observing subtle signs of fatigue, hesitation, or overconfidence was crucial, as these could reveal weaknesses opponents might exploit. Beyond physical training, the trainer managed diet and mental preparation. Gladiators were taught focus, courage, and strategic thinking. Some needed encouragement, others pressure, and the trainer had to sense which approach would yield maximum performance. Each fighter was treated as both a student and an investment in future victories. Authority required not only combat knowledge, but psychological insight. Trainers learned personalities, fears, and habits of every gladiator. Mistakes could cost life, not just in the arena, but also in maintaining reputation with sponsors. A skilled trainer combined strategy, observation, and discipline to shape fighters into champions. The trainer's day was relentless, filled with noise, exertion, and constant vigilance. Even small lapses could disrupt the training routine or harm morale. They needed stamina and patience, guiding novice fighters while pushing veterans to refine skills. Success was measured by performance in the arena and survival of the trainees. At night, the trainer returned to his quarters briefly, reflecting on the day's lessons and planning tomorrow's drills. Sleep was limited, as preparation never ended. Every gladiator's progress or failure weighed on him, and the knowledge that one misjudgment could cost a life made the role both prestigious and dangerous, demanding unwavering focus and dedication. In ancient Rome, life wasn't all work. Entertainment was woven into daily routines. Citizens flocked to the forums, baths, and taverns to relax and socialize. Street performers, musicians, and acrobats brought laughter to narrow alleys. Even ordinary citizens found joy in simple pleasures, gossiping with neighbors, playing dice games, or watching artisans demonstrate their skills in lively markets. Bathhouses were central to social life. People soaked in warm pools, scrubbed with strigils, and exchanged stories or local news. The atmosphere was lively yet relaxed, with occasional debates on politics or philosophy. Both men and women found these moments a break from labor, where friendships were strengthened and information circulated rapidly through the community. Festivals brought the city alive with noise and color. Citizens attended theatrical performances, gladiator exhibitions, and chariot races. Merchants sold snacks and wine, while spectators cheered loudly, sometimes arguing over the skill of actors or the bravery of fighters. These events were communal, blending excitement, competition, and the occasional mischief of playful crowds. Religious festivals added spiritual spectacle to everyday entertainment. Citizens watched processions, listened to prayers, and sometimes joined in dances. Offerings to gods were made alongside music, feasting, and communal celebrations. These rituals allowed ordinary Romans to experience joy, awe, and social unity, reinforcing both faith and the cultural bonds that held neighborhoods together. Even on quieter days, people created amusement from simple activities. Children played in streets, neighbors told jokes or sang songs, and couples strolled along the city's avenues. Life in Rome was filled with sensory richness, the smells of food, the chatter of crowds, the music of performers, reminding every citizen that even amidst toil, joy and community were never far away. In Rome, society was strictly hierarchical. At the top were senators and equestrians, holding political power and wealth. Below them were artisans, merchants, and small landowners, with ordinary citizens forming the majority. Slaves occupied the bottom tier, performing manual labor. Status dictated where one lived, what one wore, and even where one could sit at public events. For ordinary citizens, advancement was challenging but possible. Hard work, skill, and loyalty could elevate a person within their trade. Successful merchants or artisans could gain wealth and respect, buying better homes, attending elite events, or sponsoring local festivals. Military service was another avenue. Courage and achievement in the legions could bring citizenship or rewards from patrons. Education also played a role. Sons of modest families who learned reading, writing, and rhetoric could secure positions as clerks or minor officials. Connections and reputation mattered. Helping influential citizens, demonstrating skill, or showing loyalty could lead to patronage. Social gatherings, religious ceremonies, and public forums were opportunities to network and be noticed. Even small acts could influence social standing. Winning a local game, donating to a temple, or performing a public service gained recognition. Citizens who were clever in trade negotiations or known for fairness and reliability earned trust and respect. Over time, these incremental achievements could elevate someone above their original station, blending personal effort with strategic alliances. Despite opportunities, mobility was slow and risks were high. Wealth could be lost to bad harvests, theft, or political turmoil. Reputation could be damaged by rumor or misstep. Ordinary Romans understood that climbing the social ladder required patience, skill, and careful judgment. Those who succeeded combined diligence, strategy, and luck to improve their position in society. Ultimately, daily life for a citizen involved navigating work, family, and social obligations. Participating in local events, maintaining good relations with neighbors, and excelling in trade or craft were all paths to recognition. Even small victories respected advice, a profitable deal, or success in a public game could gradually elevate a person, showing that persistence and intelligence mattered as much as birthright. Life in Rome for an ordinary citizen was a delicate balance of work, social obligations, and the occasional pleasure. Streets buzzed with vendors, performers, and gossip. Hierarchy was clear. Senators and equestrians commanded respect, while artisans, merchants, and laborers navigated daily challenges. Even small gestures of skill or generosity could earn recognition. A citizen might begin the day with chores or trade, tending a small shop or farm. Connections mattered. Interacting politely with neighbors, assisting in local events, or demonstrating craftsmanship could slowly elevate one's standing. Reputation was fragile, but careful effort in work and social life provided a pathway to modest influence and respect. Entertainment punctuated daily life. Citizens visited baths to relax and gossip, watched street performers, or played dice games with friends. Festivals brought excitement with theatrical performances, gladiator exhibitions, and chariot races. Even ordinary citizens could participate in feasts, dances, and rituals, enjoying temporary escape from labor and responsibility. Safety was never guaranteed. Theft and petty crime were common in busy markets, and wealth did not always ensure protection. Citizens learned vigilance, keeping coins close, traveling in groups, and knowing which areas to avoid after dark. Local watchmen and neighborhood bonds offered some security, but risk was part of urban life. Interactions between men and women followed social norms. Marriage and family were central, with expectations of loyalty, duty, and respect. Public spaces allowed casual socializing, and informal conversations could lead to opportunities in trade or community influence. Education for children, storytelling, and participation in civic events reinforced status and skills. In essence, a citizen's day was a mix of labor, social maneuvering, and moments of leisure. Success depended on skill, luck, and awareness of hierarchy. Those who navigated the streets carefully, fostered connections, and seized small chances for recognition could gradually improve their lives, enjoying fleeting pleasures, respect from neighbors, and glimpses of influence in the vast machinery of Roman society. The festival dawned with a golden sky, and the streets of Rome swelled with excitement. Citizens hurried through cobbled alleys, children squealing as they chased each other past stalls of fresh bread, olives, and figs. Music floated from every corner, drums and flutes announcing the beginning of celebrations. Even the humblest citizen felt part of something grand. Temples opened their doors for festival prayers, blending spiritual devotion with social spectacle. Citizens offered coins or small gifts to the gods, while priests performed chants and blessings. Nearby, musicians played, children ran in circles, and women exchanged laughter and stories. Every corner of the city seemed alive, a chaotic harmony of devotion, play, and celebration. As midday approached, citizens flocked to the arena for games or gladiator displays. Shouts of excitement, cheers, and occasional groans echoed, mixing with the rhythmic pounding of feet on stone and the clash of wooden weapons in practice matches. Spectators from every social class jostled for a view, sharing food and drinks and reveling in the temporary escape from work and routine. Evening brought street performances and music competitions. Poets recited verses, and dancers twirled in vibrant costumes. Couples strolled along the forum, children held stolen figs or coins, and artisans displayed skillful crafts. Small disputes over gains or purchases were quickly resolved or laughed off, and laughter rang louder than the occasional shout of a scolding parent or angry vendor. As the sun dipped behind distant hills, citizens returned home, weary but exhilarated. Conversations lingered in doorways and along streets as neighbors recounted the day's highlights. The city slowly quieted, yet the sense of community, shared joy, and fleeting glory of the festival remained vivid in every heart. Tomorrow, life would resume, but today Rome had celebrated together. As night fell over Rome, the streets gradually quieted. Citizens returned to their homes, carrying memories of laughter, music, games, and fleeting triumphs from the festival. They drifted into sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring work, challenges, and perhaps another small joy. Life in the Roman Empire was a delicate balance of labor, social bonds, and the pursuit of enjoyment, each day a mixture of survival, strategy, and fleeting celebrations. From the bustling markets to the sacred temples, from the bathhouses to the roaring arenas, ordinary Romans carved moments of joy, camaraderie, and astonishment amid their daily struggles. Their lives, while harsh and constrained by social hierarchy, were rich with human ingenuity, ritual, and the small pleasures that connected them to one another. We hope you enjoyed stepping back in time with us to explore the daily life, festivals, and challenges of ordinary citizens in ancient Rome. If you want more journeys through history, fascinating stories, and immersive explorations like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Chrono Front Hub family. We have plenty more adventures waiting for you.